Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the talk. I'm going to give a present on my paper, and this is a joint work with my colleagues in CUHK. As we all know, email ecosystem mainly consists of three types of protocols. Our paper mainly focuses on the IMAP and POP3, which is responsible for the email retrievals, while for SMTP, focusing on the email sending emails to the server. So we focus on the connections between our email clients on our device to the email server. So there are two main types of security mechanisms used in the email protocols. So the first type is implicit TLS, which is they will choose to start using the TLS at the beginning when the client connects to the server. While for start TLS, they need to undergo the plain test phase to upgrade the TLS connection. But in this plain test phase, actually, it does not provide any security guarantees, and most attackers are aimed at downgrading such connection to the plain test phase and grab the user's credentials. So we consider the man-in-the-middle adversary in our paper. So the man-in-the-middle adversary can observe, modify, and block the traffic, and they can exist in anywhere. So the most common way is the most common position is that our public Wi-Fi access points, such as the NDSS 2025, can be a malicious access point. And then for our ISP, even the America ISP can be a malicious one. So they can actually see all our traffic there. So there are some problems with the email clients. So when the user is trying to do some configuration on the email clients, they need to input their the server information, such as the domains and their email address, passwords, etc. So for better usability, so the clients will try out different TLS options with the server. That's what the previous session called as heuristic guessing. So the man in the middle can try to intercept the connection and block the traffic so that the man in the middle can try to downgrade the connection and grab the user credentials in those unencrypted traffics. So, however, that's not the case on all the vendors, because some vendors do not allow the clients to downgrade to the plain text phase. So they will simply terminate the connection when the start TLS is used as the last resort. So, but given that start TLS still has such possibilities to downgrade to a plain text phase, so we prioritize as the start TLS is less secure than the implicit TLS, while for the no TLS is obviously the worst. So if you have used the iOS mail client, so you may have seen this user interface before, and this is one of the clients that we discovered that this is vulnerable to our novel attack proposed in this paper. So in our paper, we have designed 4 test cases that is evaluating the client's security mechanism and the certificate validation against those email clients. And we also gathered those email setup guides from different universities, and then we manually inspected around 800 of them to see those IT admins on guiding those email clients. So we also do some server-side evaluation, so this part is more details can be found in the paper. And then for the first part, we have on evaluating the clients. So we created 4 test cases in total to see how the clients respond to when both start TLS and implicit TLS cannot be established. So this is using the modified MITM proxy to intercept the network traffic. And for the test case constructions, we'll not go through in detail here. So our findings shows that 19 of them may silently downgrade to no TLS. That means the clients do not, the users do not know the clients will undergo a connection that is encrypted. So they assume that the connection is encrypted, but actually it is not. This is using our both classic and our new variants of the TLS stripping attack. So let's go to the classic start TLS stripping. So actually the start TLS stripping attack is known around a decade ago, but it relies on the MITM stripping away the star TLS ability from the clients. So you may wonder, what does those vendors do to prevent such downgrade? So they add a prompt to warn the user on, oh, please don't downgrade to the no TLS connection. But under our new attack variant, we can actually bypass such prompt here. So our novel star TLS stripping attack that will not trigger a prompt is that we are trying to break an existing TLS handshake by sending some mesh data to mess up the TLS handshake so that the client will be misled as no more TLS connection can be established, and then they will downgrade back to the plain text connection, and then the MITM can grab the credentials easily. So we also discovered that actually some email clients may use the same wordings as using SSL to present the star TLS and implicit TLS here. So you can see that this may actually confuse the users on configuring the security mechanisms. So the second part is that we want to see how the clients handle the certificate validation under various scenarios. So we have designed 5 test cases here, and we try to replace the server certificates with our test mail server. So we found that 19 of them at least will miss a critical check on certificate validation. And to our surprise, most of them actually validated the certificate chain, but with not the host name. For example, if an attacker tries to use a completely domain and then they generate a valid certificate, they can easily impersonate the original legitimate email server. So we also discovered that one client will try to ask user to downgrade to no TLS instead of accepting the invalid certificate. Yeah, you may think like both options are bad, but actually downgrading to no TLS will be more terrible because a passive attacker can also benefit from that, because the passive attacker does not need to do anything to grab the user's credentials here. So we also see how the IT admins instruct the users to avoid the potential security risk we mentioned just now. So we have identified and read the setup guides manually with the two helps of the two authors here, and then we gathered around 810 university setup guides here. And then we tried to classify them into 2 categories. So out of around 800 of them, we discovered that 1/3 of them are generic setup guides, which means that they only provide minimal information in telling how the user should configure their mail server. And then 90 of them only states the use of auto-detect mechanism that is in the clients. And even for around 2/3 portion of them, there are almost half of them ask users to simply use the auto-detect feature in the email clients. And then some of them, like 42 of them, use the Android system client, but actually this Android system client is varied from different device vendors. And surprisingly, we found that even with the use of auto-detect, none of them guide users on what should they do when there is a warning prompt appears. So if the users tries to continue with the connection without knowing anything, so the users will easily expose his credentials on the network traffic. So for server-side evaluation, so we have gathered a set of certificate chains from the server's domain that we collected from the setup guides, and then we've tried to verify them with the PyOpenSSL library. So we also analyzed some public key information and the certificate lifespan, but more details can be found in the paper. So out of 700, around 800 certificate chains, so we found that actually only a small amount of them failed in the chain validation. And even for the leaf certificates, only 13 of them failed to validate the host name here. So actually we can see that server-side evaluation the servers are actually doing quite well in terms of their configuration, and the problem should be emphasizing on how clients should tighten their validation in terms of verifying the certificate chain. So we also responsibly disclose the vulnerabilities we mentioned to the vendors, and then the setup guide issues to various universities. And Apple has confirmed our findings back to 2023, but they are scheduling a fix this year. And then there are 2 universities thanked us for our reports, and they will evaluate the setup guides. So to conclude, so we study the 3 aspects of the email clients. So this includes both client-side and server-side implementations, and also with the setup guides offered by those IT admins. So we see that some email clients actually show improper handling on the security downgrades and the certificate validation, especially on the auto-detect mechanisms. And actually, IT admins should explicitly tell how users should concretely checking how to configure the email clients more precisely. And also with some specifications that are ambiguous, they should not leave the vendors to interpret what to implement in the email clients. So thank you for listening. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, this is Barry Lieba. I've been working on this stuff on the standard side for something like 25 years. I work in the IETF a lot. Thank you for this. What I want to stress to everybody is that both this talk and the previous one are highlighting failures in the clients rather than failures in the clients and servers rather than failures in the protocol. That if everybody were doing what the best practices say they should do, they would not fall back to plain text. They would not accept plain text in the configuration in the first place. And as I always like to say, we shouldn't be asking users questions they're not qualified to answer. There should never be a prompt that says, something went wrong, what do you want me to do? Because the user doesn't know how to answer that in the general user case. So thank you for highlighting how many failures there are in following the best practices that they should be following. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I agree with you because most, actually email protocols are quite old, but I still don't understand why they need to accommodate some plain text freeze, etc. So, yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so following that comment, I think I don't know much about the email ecosystem, but I believe that there must be a similar journey for the TLS adoption in browsers, right? How do you, what if the certificate is invalid, and what do you do? What do you prompt to users for? Why, did we learn anything from that journey at all? Or why are we repeating all of these for the...
Indeed, and more browsers are not asking the user, they're just refusing to connect, which can be frustrating, but it's the better answer. Because if somebody tries to go to their bank and the browser says, your bank has a problem with its security certificate, what do you want me to do? The user doesn't know what that means, and the user's just going to say, just go there, I want to go to my bank. So more and more, the browsers are just not doing that, and they're just not letting you go because it's not safe.
Wes Hardiker, USC ISI, and author of a number of the secure mail-related transport RFCs from the IETF. There's one fundamental difference between web browsers and email systems that everybody has to remember when they're doing research in this area, which is that in the web browser, there is a user interface where you can ask the user questions. That is not true in the email world. Even on the client side, there's a lot of mail that is sent automatically, a lot of mail that doesn't have a user sitting in front of it as the mail goes out. And so because of that, you can't necessarily have the guaranteed ability to ask them the question, do you want to continue anyway? Server-to-server SMTP has none of that ability, right? There's nothing. But even with IMAP, there's automated stuff that happens in the background with relays and all sorts of stuff that you don't have the ability to control that. So that's where a lot of the difficulty comes from.
Any other questions or comments? It was really great to end the session with this great discussion and a lot of interest from everybody. We thank the speaker and all the speakers one more time. Thank you so much for attending. Dr. Absika.